The year's over. It's time for our award ceremony, or maybe not an award ceremony. Let's talk about this.
The Christian Principles Podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Herzog Foundation. But bear in mind, the views and opinions expressed here are those of the hosts and not necessarily of the Herzog Foundation. Welcome to the Christian Principles Podcast. I'm Matt George.
I'm Mark Zockel. It's good to be here with y'all today. Good to
Yeah.
be here with y'all.
Y'all,
Y'all.
it's time to wrap up here, y'all.
We are excited today to talk about the end of the year. We're excited to talk about one of the things that will happen at the end of the year for you, or perhaps not, and even kind of go down that rabbit hole of if not, why not sort of thing. But we're going to talk about the award ceremonies which occur in our schools. And we're not talking about graduation. We're not talking about K-5 senior high graduation. We're not talking about the awards which might be provided in the different classrooms. We're talking about a general gathering, a formal announced gathering of our stakeholders and our students, at which time we would be presenting them with awards based on their work from the year previous. So that's what we're talking about today. Before we go further, let's hear from the Herzog Foundation about how they can further support you and what you do.
The Christian Principles Podcast is proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation in our mutual goal to see Christian school educators thrive, to further its mission to catalyze and accelerate the development of quality, Christ-centered K-12 education. The Herzog Foundation offers an array of programs such as online content, up-to-date news, training and events, grants, and hands-on organizational improvement initiatives. Leaders need to head over to the Herzog Institute to find amazing training opportunities for both administration and teachers. Herzog has also become a great hub of the latest news in education through their network of podcasts, including the one provided by yours truly. What a blessing the Herzog Foundation has been. Head over to herzogfoundation.com now so you too can be strengthened by this incredible organization. That's herzogfoundation.com.
Coming in from our commercial, it is time. That's not
Coming in hot. We're coming in hot from the commercial.
Well, from our partnership. Yeah, absolutely. Here's what's going to happen this time. We haven't had an episode like this before, but I'm going to ask Matt questions. He has not seen these questions any previous
Pick a card, any card.
Yeah, he's going to be talking on the top of his head. This could be dangerous, but we're going to go through and see what happens anyway. We're going to be talking. I'm going to be asking him question by question concerning his thoughts on the award ceremony. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because if you would Google best practices end of the year award ceremony and even Christian school, you would come up with quite a few different opinions as to the appropriateness of awards in general, award ceremonies, what we should or should not be doing. So, Matt, first question: do we have an award ceremony at the end of the school year?
Yes, we do. Of course we do. That's my response to that. We do have an award ceremony. Now, I will say that in my personal experience growing up, it was always attached to the senior graduation, actually. You would do the award ceremony kind of first, and then a transition into the graduation where the graduates would come in and, you've got the pomp and circumstance and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was kind of like preliminary to it. So it was a separate event in the evening after school was officially done, of course.
And it brought the whole student body together because it was, first grade through 11th grade at that point?
Yeah. And yeah, because your kindergarten had already taken care of their graduation. But I mean, I will say, having done it that way, there was that tendency for the kids that just never showed up. You just knew they weren't going to be there for whatever reason. Maybe they were, they already left on summer vacation, or they're in baseball or something like that. But that was the tradition. So everybody understood that was going to come, that was going to happen. Now, what we do at our school is a little different in that it's a part of our last day of school. We it's right in the school day, right at the end there. Parents are permitted to come and watch, but we try to keep it very much just from first to 11th grade is
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about there. We pretty straightforward. In fact, I'm putting everything together as we speak for that, which to time this episode is happening tomorrow. But yeah, we there's a lot of things that you include in that, but I will say this, and maybe I'm jumping into, but because it's part of our day, it has to be streamlined. You can't just do every award under the sun.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
So we'll get there, but that's kind of one of the things is attaching it to the school day does kind of have a little bit of demands as to
Mhm.
what you can do during that ceremony.
You don't have to look far for an alternative opinion on this. If you would, again, just do that simple Googling, you would come away with a Linden Christian School reprinted with permission of George Couros. He's the author of Principle of Change, which I think is a play on word with the principles and principles. But the very clear walk away from his article is that we should not be having any sort of award ceremony. What I don't like about this, much like a certain educational philosopher that we cover in that grad class I talked about before, his experiences personally are what drive his notion or drive
Okay.
his understanding that awards, and in his own words, let me find this really fast. Awards eventually lose their luster to students that get them, while often hurting the self-esteem and pride of those who don't. I'm not saying that awards don't lose their luster. I'm not saying that students could hurt by not getting one, but that does leave a lot out because there's a lot more to the story. And I
Yeah.
would tend to agree with you, Matt, that there's a lot more to the story about an award ceremony or just what would happen. And he does my own award story, and you can talk about his love of athletics and how he did not get a very specific award. How many times has this happened in our schools, and have we have not known about the impact it's had on our students later on in their lives?
Yeah,
So
I hear that, and granted, I know there are probably many who have been hurt, scarred, what have you, by not getting an award. But I just keep coming back to honor to whom honor is due. Like you got to make sure you are giving that affirmation as well. Like to
sure.
not give the affirmation could be just as scarring. We could argue
Mm,
that.
well said.
Um, so yeah, I am not a big fan of rewarding just for the sake of rewarding. Like, hear me say that straight up,
Mhm.
that we're not handing out, hey, you were a student in our school, so here's an award. It's not a participation trophy. We want to make sure that these are earned. I mean, I could even talk about some of our awards that are are typical, they're expected, and sometimes they aren't earned. And
There we
and
go.
we have to go past those. But um, I guess we would ask the question, is it worse for somebody to think that they were supposed to get an award who did not, or for somebody who absolutely should have gotten one and does not get it?
These are great
You know
questions.
that I definitely don't want to overlook somebody who deserves recognition.
Either way, we've discussed this before. Whichever
Yeah.
belief your leadership team has, you better have it written down because if you get turned into jelly on 50 and the next person comes through and they have a different idea, but the history of the school hangs in the balance and the traditions of the school hang in the
Yeah.
balance, you would want them to understand why it was you selected to do or to abstain from such award ceremonies. All right,
Yeah,
next question. Go for it.
hold on, Mark. I got to stop you real quick,
Fine,
just
fine,
because you
fine.
reminded me. If I leave this place and I do get squashed into jelly on 50 tomorrow, there's a PowerPoint on my computer. Just run the PowerPoint. You'll be good.
You'll be fine.
Just
You
want
can
to
do
make
it.
sure we're clear there.
Pomp and circumstance or informal? Formal, informal award ceremony. We've already talked about you have one. So the rest of these are like, okay, we're going to have one. So how's it going to look, Matt?
Pomp without the circumstance. How about that? Or circumstance without the pomp. Is there a middle ground
Pump,
here? I'm
pumpy,
a
no
bit of a middle
circumstancey.
ground. I'm not full blown formality. No, I'm not. I I don't. I guess I'm trying to think of the
Are students in
for the
uniform or are they
ceremony.
in casual
Yeah,
dress?
we've got regular dress code.
Okay, regular dress code.
I will say one year we went with the casual because we wanted them to do stuff outside before we did the ceremony. But then you've got all these pictures of the awards and these kids in t-shirts and shorts. I'm like, I don't know if I want that. So
Yeah.
so it is regular school dress.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of hit this middle ground. It's formal in the sense that there is an order to it, and it's not just here's an award and here's an award. We do category by category. We bring them up on the stage. We get a picture. We send them back to their seat, and we hold your applause
I
until
was
we
going to
get
say
through everybody.
you
That
actually
kind of
talk
stuff.
about you actually talk
Yeah,
about hold your applause or don't hold your applause or there's no screaming out of this time. Feel free to cheer, that sort of thing. You say that from the top, or they
yeah,
expect it. It's
yeah,
known.
yeah. And in some ways, it kind of acts like a chapel for us. And even I don't know if this is also. I didn't look at the question, so if I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry. But I even try to make sure that the award ceremony is couched in like this is not just a time to not really care. Oh, I'm not getting any awards, so I'm just going to goof around the whole time. It is a time to be respectful, to be encouraging to those who did well. And we want to make sure we do have a sense of decorum, and we're going to bring it back to the spiritual truth by the end of it as well. So
And I'd also want to say, what about those who need to learn how to lose gracefully? Because there could be some really close runoffs in certain of these awards that the students are
yeah,
expecting, and learning how to lose gracefully can happen elsewhere than just the field, elsewhere than just the court. It could happen in these situations as well. And even being aware of that beforehand and intentionally talking to your class about it, what a wonderful way for parents and faculty and staff to go about encouraging even those who don't get a certain award.
yeah, and I would say there are opportunities, and I think this is because we're in charge. At the end of the day, you just got to remember that you're in charge. And I was talking to my secondary principal about this. Like when it comes down to it, I mentioned that when a class or an individual does not earn an award that perhaps they might think that they're going to earn, like that's one thing. But when you have such close contention, as you were just saying, and we can only have one, like, well, there are other ways to acknowledge that this was so close. And
True.
even if it just means printing out another piece of paper that says, hey, great job, you didn't get the medal, but we want to recognize you did a great job anyway, like,
Sure.
then do it. There's other ways to still bring recognition to those individuals that didn't quite win out without it becoming, well, hey, it's a participation trophy now. I mean, I
What a great
hmm,
segue. Just hold on one segue. Next question: more awards, fewer
yeah, oh
awards.
yeah,
I'll pick up where you
yeah.
were.
So on that point, fewer is always better to me, just because fewer in the sense of here is the carrot that you're trying to attain, and we want to motivate you to it. And if there's so many carrots, then you don't have to do anything. You're going to get one. It's and this is where if I dare get political at all on this podcast. This is where that what was the American Patriot Medallion or award or whatever that was being handed out like candy. Like as long as you're a living, breathing American, you get this medal. Like it takes, and this is the history guy talking. It takes a lot of the seriousness away from that achievement, from people that perhaps sacrificed an awful lot to get that. If you have, well, we're going to have the top GPA for the class, then we'll have the second GPA, and we'll have the third GPA, and we're going to give the same kind of award to everybody. Then what's the point of having the top GPA?
So haven't disagreed with you to this point on almost anything you've said. I will go ahead and be the other here, the anti here, because not only should a podcast have the pro and the anti, but also because I don't like you, and it's time for me to tell you that to your face. Here we
Bring
go.
it.
Time to rip you apart. You ready for this? Here we go. Um, I I would disagree. I would say more awards is where I tend to come from. I point to your own words a moment ago saying you're in charge. You can actually create something if you really want to. And maybe you were saying that in a very specific one-time situation because if you didn't do this, you would lose a donor. Like I get that stuff, and that's
Yeah.
not. I'm being a little bit facetious there, a little bit hypothetical, but I'd also say we are a bit. How many times have I said we are in the service industry, and especially in a tuition-driven school like most of us have, or competition. I made a joke a few episodes ago about Brad Parker down in North Carolina and the other North Carolinian and Floridian and the rest of the Bible Belt and the a number of Christian schools they have around them, and really it could be a competition just between you and your next door neighbors to who gets that one student, and so there could be some level of I'm doing this in part to keep my people happy. I'm doing this in part because I will get good grace. I will get parents who are on board. And if five more awards mean I get their at a time when they're leaving the school and thinking about next year's enrollment, I get their good graces. It's worth the piece of paper that is printed on to hand it to them for that time. I'm not calling that participation trophy though. I almost asked you in this one, give me a percentage. Are we talking 100% of students get awards? I'd be against that. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm probably not even talking if like so big the next big step. I'm probably not even talking about like 75% of the students present getting an award. I'm probably talking about more like maybe half to
Hmm.
below half. Like in my mind, that it definitely shouldn't be 10%. I don't want it to be a quarter. So I'm okay as I think through this now, like between 25 and 50 is where my sweet spot's going to be. But I consider
Yeah.
that to be more than what I'm hearing. Definitely more than the guy who says none, Mr. Giorgio,
Right.
and
Yeah.
perhaps more than whatever you were thinking of as fewer. But I tend to think, if I have a homeroom teacher with 20 kids in her classroom, the last day of school if she hasn't already done like homeroom awards where she's going to knowingly give everybody something because she found something to award everybody with, like you're the Daniel Award and you're the Joshua Award and you're the so and so. If that happens in your award ceremony, I'm probably against that actually. I'd rather the award ceremony be a little bit more formal so they're more like school awards and we
Yes.
are recognizing GPAs and the dean's list for the principal's list all year, but I'm also okay with a few more that are developed in that time. It doesn't have to just to me it doesn't have to just be those, and it wouldn't take much prompting for me to want to also find the teacher of the year and the administrator of the year and the parent of the year and the donor of the year and different things. Like I also would want to go and find more in those ways as well. So there we go.
Yeah.
Answer.
No.
Rebut. Go ahead and give us the butt.
Yeah, no,
I
no,
said
you're
a
right.
lot.
No, that I guess it's a bit of semantics, I think,
Sure, absolutely.
perhaps. Because when I say fewer awards, to me it's not so much that it restricts the amount of kids that can get it. It's be purposeful with your awards when you're creating them because like I know our like you just stick with honor roll for the honor roll for
Hmm.
the year. Like I can almost guarantee we're over 50% are acknowledged just on the
Hmm.
honor roll in and of
Sure.
itself. So whenever we move to our other awards, like these are you're just now repeating people that have already been named. Like you're not going to really get outside of that very much. So how often I say this in our senior graduation, how often do we want those kids going through a revolving door? Does that
You
make
mean like
sense?
literally coming up and leaving the stage back and forth? Another
Y-
source. You go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not to say that you limit your awards so that, oh well, we can't give Johnny another,
Hmm.
certificate or something.
Yeah.
It's not so much that as like we're going to kind of take it for granted that this group that's going to be awarded for, academic performance is going to be likely the group to also get recognized for character or for some other thing.
That was a point made in another one of the sources I pulled for this episode that wanted to be very clear that the one of the reasons they wanted to do away with award ceremonies was because it was, in their estimation, inappropriately racist, genderist, socioeconomic statistist. The students in the higher socioeconomic status, they're the ones who are going to probably wind up getting all the awards. And I know you're not tracking that sort of thing where you are, and I didn't track that sort of thing where I was, because, to your point, the awards we gave out at the end of that year, and we'll say it again, write it down. Each one of those awards from the school stage in an award ceremony, in my humble opinion, should have a very clear definition behind them, where it's not a whole lot of ambiguous subjectivity, but rather,
Right.
even if it is a voting thing amongst the, I think of the honor society. The honor society, it is subjective on the opinions of the teachers, at least for part of the awards, a part of the nomination to the honor society. However, it's quantitative in so much that you got to get a certain number for a certain number of teachers. So I would expect the awards, even in my more awards stance, so to speak, to still be, as you said, well documented as to what they are,
Yeah.
and leave the happy helper awards for the teacher to give out in some other spot. Now, just to move on, just academics, or are you far outside that realm? How far outside the realm of academics are you getting? I mentioned donors and parents, and like, are you okay with that? Are you not okay with that? What are you doing?
It's I will say it's highly academic. I would say our award ceremony as of right now is very student centered. Maybe that's the way we should put it.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with recognizing others outside of that. I just know at the end of the year there's a lot, just as I'm trying to put all of this together, that like getting outside of the students has got to be established and written down
Mm,
long before, and whenever I get this happens a lot around, if you have like some kind of banquet or some kind of major event and you've been planning for it, planning for it, planning for it. It's inevitable. Like the day before, somebody says, "Hey, you should do this." It's like, you know what? You're right. I agree with you, but tell me that a year ago. Like, come on. Like, don't tell me this now. So, there is definitely, and this is where getting a PTA involved is going to be extremely
mm-hmm,
helpful.
mm-hmm,
Getting your admin team together to help with that, but getting that all written down ahead of time, and even letting people know, like, hey, at the award ceremony, we're going to be recognizing a teacher of the year, which we need input from students, we need input from parents. We're going to be
mm-hmm.
recognizing a parent of the year, and we need input from the teachers, and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Is your award ceremony the last thing of the year, or is it just prior to the last thing of the year for you?
Well, the last thing of the year for us is senior graduation,
Okay.
and it is prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is no school, as I think I've already mentioned, our award ceremony is the last thing that we do. So it's our last day of school. It's the last thing right before our dismissal for the summertime.
When Pastor Reinert performs marriages, he notes to the bridal party in the rehearsal that he has the Greek words at the end. What God hath put together, let no man put asunder, which is Greek for "you can kiss her now." So in your tradition, are there any specific words that are used in tradition which are, I said tradition twice, in your ceremony, are there any traditional words or fond farewells that the students realize, and that is the last word of this ceremony, and I am now done?
Um, it's kind of I do a process. It's a process. So we sing the school song. Maybe before singing the school song, we've rehearsed like the school verse or the theme for the year,
Mhm.
sing the school song, pray together, and then every morning in announcements, I've just found that I say this and I've been saying it, and they expect me to say it, where say "Have a great day, Falcons,"
Mhm.
and Falcons being our mascot, not because I'm talking to
Oh.
Falcons.
Oh.
Yeah. So I usually will wrap up the award ceremony with "Have a great summer, Falcons," and
There we
that's
go.
pretty much it.
That's
We're
Greek
done.
for have a good time, folks. All right,
Yeah.
big awards of the school. They come out here. The school's biggest awards outside of diplomas come out here.
Yes, I think I know what you're asking me in that question.
So I'm not saying that there is a greater award than what the parents pay for, which is the education of their students. And I'm saying that the formalized awards a school would hand out. So whatever the
Yeah,
traditional awards of the school are, the biggest and baddest ones, they come out in this award ceremony,
this is it.
unless they're
This is
going
it.
to
We're
be
knocking them
given
out.
in the unless they're going to be given in the graduation for the seniors. So if a senior
Right.
won it, yeah, okay,
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'll just say at this point, like I make the biggest deal. It may not necessarily be the biggest deal for our school, but it is to me. Is our citizenship medallion? We call it a citizenship, where we're looking for the Christ-like qualities that we're trying to teach our kids. We want to see it in kids. We don't expect perfection, and it is often probably the most difficult one because I'll have teachers coming to me and saying, "I really want to give it to this child, but here's this and here's that." And there's an amount of grace that you can give, of course, because we don't expect perfection.
hmm
But when when it's so awesome to me when the teachers look at that criteria and they immediately think of one of their students. Like that's awesome, and we want to celebrate that. I always make sure that that's the last award that we give away. I
hmm
try not to cry as I'm talking through what the criteria is, and it's pretty rough. But I even tell the kids at the beginning of the year, like, listen, not that I want you to be pursuing this award, um, but if you're pursuing the Lord, if you're pursuing God and trying to live according to what you're being taught, like your name is going to be put in the hat for this award. And that's what I rather see it be more difficult because there's so many to choose from than just be like, oh, no question, like nobody's getting it this year. Or no question, like this is the only child that possibly could get this.
hmm To your point previous, that it could be that this is not given out for a certain grade.
Yeah, and it's not unusual for this one. Yeah,
hmm So, traditions in this time. So, is there someone who says the goodbye? Is there a teaser for the upcoming school year? Something for the people to sink their teeth into? An excitement? Is it a certain ceremony that's presided over just before? I know there's gonna be an honor society ceremony just before just before this award ceremony for you in the upcoming. So, any other traditions in this time besides the known awards themselves? You mentioned a school song and a verse.
yeah, and we have a school theme that we look at every year and revisit that and remind them of truths that they've learned. And the important thing is to continue in the things that we've learned. So I always bring that verse out as well. And then a time of singing together. But yeah, we're starting Honor Society this year, and that's going to happen prior to. So that's a tradition that we're looking forward to having. I'm sure there's other things. I know my admin team and I have been talking about some things to start doing.
Mm.
But as of right now, it's pretty much just because of the sake of time. It takes a lot of time to get through all the awards. So
Which that's a
that's that one.
great segue to the next question of does each when you plan this out? I think yours is planned for what, an hour right now is what yours is planned for,
Yeah.
and it's not even an
Yep.
hour because you're going to talk and you talk for a
Yep.
long time. So really, if each teacher's going to get some time, do you plan it out so that each teacher has 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes? How do you plan that out? I'll
Well,
let you think about it. Go ahead.
we plan it out in the award ceremony. I run the whole thing. The only ones that are coming up outside of me are for like specific type of things. Like for instance, our elementary program, PE program, does something that they all are working towards. So I have the elementary PE teacher and present that. We have fine arts. I have my fine arts director do some fine arts awards, and then the elementary principal will come up for some elementary things. But other than that, I try to keep the ball rolling. The teachers do their thing in their classroom, and a lot of times even they invite the parents to come in for a time and talk with the parents. But yeah, that's as it is right now, because we're limiting it to an hour. In order to get through all the awards, I'm the one that's moving it along.
This is an offering of another thought of how this could be reviewed or completed or done if you are going to plan to have an award ceremony. I have experience with there were no those homeroom awards weren't passed out in homerooms. They were saved for when everybody was together. Everybody was going to hear everybody's names called that was going to get any kind of award. So there was a time of, well, this is the time we have in the day, literally between drop off and pick up. This is the amount of flexible time we have in that time, knowing that we need half an hour on the start, half an hour at the end. So this is the time we have in between, which means each teacher gets, and it was metered out to like literally 8 minutes. And it was said amongst the teachers, I didn't just say it, but amongst the teachers, they're like, now, remember, if you go over so and so, I don't
Right,
get my time. So make sure that
right.
you don't go over. So if there is, there are alternative ways of doing it that just might require a little more intentionality. And if those homeroom awards that your teachers give out in their homeroom prior to the award ceremony, actually going to go in the award ceremony, so others can see, cheer, and hear and be I suppose either impressed or depressed because of them. uh,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they're given such time as that. Anything else you want to say about your award ceremony?
I just know it is definitely something that can easily fly, but intentionality I think is such an important word. That as long as you are intentional in what you are doing and you've communicated it clearly, then people are happy no matter what happens. And I guess I'm also not that you're putting on a show necessarily, but I going back to even saying the fewer, less is more in the sense I'd rather people leave saying, oh, something else could have been done. I'd rather that than, my goodness, I thought that would never end. Or they clearly could not think of any other awards because they gave
Yeah.
around everything possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a pessimistic, optimistic
Well, leave
type
them
of
one.
viewpoint,
Yeah,
but
leave them wanting more, not leave them wanting less.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Retire. Yeah,
I'm on that
retire on
point,
top.
but
Retire on top. All right. So our Christian administrator spotlight that we're going to jump to now, to because we're rolling through this episode's time anyway. Mr. Jonathan Rains. Matt, tell us about Jonathan Rains.
Jonathan Rains, he is the administrator of Faith Baptist School in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Fredericksburg. There's a
Um,
battle there, right?
yeah, Fredericksburg. Yeah, it was. Good job. Well
Mm-hmm.
done. Very proud of you. It
I
was a
do
little bit
things.
before the one that you can see up above
Yeah,
my
over
head,
there.
um, but yeah, I first got to know not Jonathan specifically, but the ministry there while I was traveling for my college. Went to Faith of Fredericksburg a couple of times, but Jonathan brings his seniors down to the wilds for their senior trip, and we've been there a couple times at the same time because when you have two Faith Baptist schools in a very small, environment, like, okay, Faith, which one?
Which
So
one of
we're
us?
we're the two faiths that tend to be at the wilds together. But yeah, so that's how I know of their school, and even I know our pastor just was at their graduation
Mm-hmm.
because of a grand nephew who was graduating from there. So
How great.
so some connections for us as well. But Jonathan at Faith in Fredericksburg.
And you actually were doing CPP work at one point.
This is true.
Transatlantic
This is
Crossing.
true. Yeah, I don't know if he even knows who I am necessarily, but but uh, but yes, I had to edit an episode of our podcast while I was with the seniors on the senior trip, and he was in the sponsor lounge with me while I was doing that. Probably, I don't know what he was thinking I was doing. So I'm sitting there with my headphones, looking all youthy.
Listen,
But
You say you had to. I'd say you got to do it. You were allowed the privilege of editing one of these podcasts.
I mean, granted, I did a really great job with that one. It was a good one.
It
It
was a
was a
good
good
one.
episode.
They've all been great. Listen, Jonathan, I'm going to pray for you now, and we'll hear less from Matt, which is a good thing.
Thank
Father
you.
in heaven, you are so kind to us. We thank you for Christian education in the United States of America, and I thank you for Jonathan Rains and what he is doing there at Faith Baptist. I appreciate that we have many people listening in who are sharing in this prayer and thinking of their own end of the year, thinking of what maybe they could do to further celebrate or to think through why they're not going to pursue celebration in the future. Whatever it is, Lord, might they be encouraged in this time, and might Jonathan specifically have what he needs. I think about filling teacher needs, and I think about financial needs and budget needs and perhaps increased enrollment needs or new building needs, whatever it is, whatever Faith Baptist School in Fredericksburg there needs, Lord, in your will, way, and time, offer him what you would so that he and that school are successful for you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right,
Amen.
folks. Thanks for going with us today.
Before you go, please be sure to hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, on Spotify, be sure to tap the star icon near the top and select the number of stars you'd like to give us. We'd be so grateful for 5. On Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the ratings and review section and then tap write a review to share your thoughts of the podcast. Thank you.